If you love American music, you're going to love this. Welcome to American Music Backstage, the podcast that takes you where fans rarely get to go, behind the curtain. I'm your host, Kenneth Witt, and I sit down with fans, musicians, artists from across the country to talk about life on the road, the stories behind the songs, and what really happens backstage before the show. From rising stars to seasoned performers, you'll hear the journeys, the struggles, and the moments that made the music. American Music Backstage with me, Kenneth Witt, available wherever you get your podcast. Hey everybody, Kenneth Witt with the Kenneth Witt Podcast from American Music Backstage. I always try to have a lot of artists on. I kind of seem biased because everybody I've had on here just about has been from Kentucky. And maybe it's just because I'm from Kentucky and, I have a lot of contacts that way and years of playing bluegrass and stuff. But someone told me that a really good person I should get on was Doug Carter. And so Doug, that's why I reached out to you. But without me talking any further, please introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are and where you're from and what you're doing these days.
Yeah, Kenneth, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It was good to meet you the other day for the first time, and been looking forward to the podcast here since. Yeah, I'm Doug Carter. I'm a keyboard player here in Nashville, Tennessee, originally from the big bustling city of Paducah, Kentucky. And I've been in Nashville since 1998. I spent a few years in the Carolinas playing gospel music regionally out there for a bit, and then made the move to Nashville in 1998. And since moving to town, I've had the great pleasure to tour with some bigger names in country music, and very, very grateful for that, for sure.
So yeah, I did. So let's talk about that first before we get into the current act. But I didn't know you played gospel. I did. I used to do bluegrass gospel, but who all did you play? Tell me about that.
Yeah, no, when I moved to Central North Carolina in about 1993, I believe, just a couple years out of high school, and played with a male quartet. So this is gospel music for the listeners and watchers. This is Southern gospel music, not black Southern gospel, white Southern gospel, very, very white actually. But there was a male quartet called Crimson River out of Burlington, North Carolina, that I toured with for a few years, and then spent a few years after that with a family group out of Atlanta called the Nealons. Rex Nealon was their main guy back in the early days with the Lefevre Quartet, and then the Rex Nealon Singers, and then the Nealons. And so I was there for a few years as well. Actually, while I moved to Nashville, I moved from North Carolina. I went to Atlanta to get on the bus, and we did our weekend trip, and I got off the bus and drove to Nashville, and we moved kind of while I was in the middle of a tour with the Nealons. But so yeah, moved to here and didn't really do much gospel after moving here. I just made some connections in the Christian contemporary music world. I got to tour, do some tour dates. It was a bucket list thing for me, Kenneth, growing up in Southern gospel music. There was a guy by the name of, back then, he went by Mike English. And then once he, got quite a bit bigger, he went by Michael English. But we had a show with Michael when I was with the Nealons, and we were the afternoon act and he was the evening show. And I'd slipped a note. I went to the back of our bus, wrote a note on a piece of notebook paper with a pencil. Said, I play for the Nealons. I'm such a huge Michael English fan. I'm about to move to Nashville. It'd be amazing to get to know somebody and maybe, play for Michael at some point. And honestly, I didn't know what I expected out of that letter. For all I knew, it was going to get passed around the tour bus and crumpled up in the trash and everybody have a good laugh at it or whatever. Man, that was not the case at all. His keyboard player and band leader, Bo Cooper, emailed me right away and said, man, it's so cool that you're coming to Nashville. It's cool that you're a Michael English fan. I'm a Michael English fan too. And I mean, within weeks of getting here, I had met with Bo and I had my first Michael English shows booked on the calendar. I mean, he just was so warm to me and perfect and hired me basically without even hearing me play or anything. I guess he figured I could, but I I didn't let him down. But I did a little bit of that, and then it just, as Nashville does, you get in the country music scene, and so he's really about the only CCM artist I did any work with, and then went straight to country and Doug Stone, Jessica Andrews, Pam Tillis. I know I'm forgetting others, but did that for a few years before landing the gig that I've had for the last 24, 25 years, something like that.
Oh, well, all great artists. I probably shouldn't talk this about a whole lot on the air, but I was an Army Reserve, and in the end of my Army career, I was a JAG officer. And we drilled in Nashville, and one of my buddies in a unit with me, who was also an attorney in Springfield, Tennessee, had represented Doug's wife in the divorce. And this is back in the 90s. But anyway, small world. But Pam Tillis, oh man, Jessica Andrews was such a talent. I remember her; she was really young, wasn't she, at that time?
Goodness, yeah, she was. I think 15 or 16 years old. Her mother, Vicky, traveled on the bus with her. She always had her mom out. And I just loved her mother so much too. And her mother loved me because I made my bunk every morning. I made my bed. And she thought that was indicative of me being a good boy, you know. I made my bed because you lose stuff in the comforter in your bunk. Like, where's my wallet or whatever, you know, and you're digging around for it. So I would always make my bed just so if I laid anything on my bed during the day, I wouldn't lose it. So, but she was fun. And Jessica, yeah, you said it, man. What a voice. Golly, just crazy what she could do.
Doug, what become of her? I'm sorry. I've got a little delay. I'm sorry. I know it's my internet. I apologize.
Yeah, no sweat.
I recall that I saw something on maybe YouTube. I'm always looking at music and learning. I'm always learning stuff off YouTube, but seemed like I saw her singing something somewhere, and I thought, man, I forgot she'd existed. I wonder where is she now, I guess is the question.
Yeah, I lost touch with her. I know that she married, I think, a singer-songwriter named Marcel, which I'm not really familiar with him. But I actually ran into Jessica just by chance here in Nashville many years ago. So like it was over 25 years ago that I did a tour for her. But I ran into her at 3rd and Lindsley, which is a music venue here in town, just out of the blue. And, you know, she looked at me, and I think enough time had passed that she's like, I know this guy, but I just can't, remember. So we caught up for a minute. It was very nice catching up with her, though. Always a beautiful, talented young lady.
Now, when you first got to Nashville and the gospel was still going on, is that around the time that Twitty City became Trinity Broadcasting?
I believe Network? So. I think it had already happened. I think it was just after that, but it was around that time. Yeah.
Yeah. That was neat because all that stuff took place there. And I guess now it went from Twitty City, Conway Twitty's place, to Trinity Broadcast Network, which was a Christian channel worldwide. And then, I don't know, my brothers live right behind all that.
Okay.
I don't know what became of that. It's something different now, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't know what it is. I'm like you. I sort of just lost the information there. I don't know what it is now. I know I did a couple of shows up there. They had a pretty nice production studio, built into that facility. So hopefully it's still being used for that. I don't know.
Now, how long? Well, being with Pam Tillis, you got to talk to him about that. And did you get to meet her father?
I met Mel, but not when I was with Pam. I met Mel at the Opry and the Ryman, just backstage a few times.
Okay.
What a riot, man.
And what was it like playing with Pam Tillis?
Pam was fun. That was a fun gig. Great catalog of songs, hits. I had a couple of good buddies in the band. So that was all, that's always a nice thing when you got a couple of guys, you come into something. It was for a short season. It was around, I think the beginning of 2001, maybe January, February, March, kind of that time frame. So I was in my 20s, mid 20s, I guess. And it was a lot of fun. Loved singing backup. We did an Opry thing one night, and Pam and Vince Gill and myself did a trio thing on a song. So, you get to have those little nuggets of goodness, sort of slip in between the tour dates. Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
Oh wow. Yeah, that is so well let's take it along now. How did you end up with the Lee Greenwood gig and what time frame was that?
All right. So there's a fella guitar player that was with Pam when I was, and his name's John Conley, not to be confused with the artist, rose-colored glasses John Conley, but
not rose-colored glasses.
Not him. But a guitar player named John Conley, who has been several years a part of Kenny Chesney's band. Still tours with Kenny for a long time. But John was on the Pam gig when I got there, and we hit it off, instantly, and a lot of fun. And Pam had I think she had done a transition, so she let a lot of people go and was going to take a little downtime and then maybe regroup the band. There's kind of a running joke in town: if you're not a pro player in town unless you've been fired by Pam Tillis at one point in your career. Very lighthearted saying that because it was a fun time being there. But but after John and I had left, he had come out and he had a friend who was Lee's band leader at the time, a guy named Eric Horner, also a Paducah, Kentucky fella. Eric was Lee's band leader for years. And John started doing some shows, and Eric mentioned to John, hey, the guy that's playing keys for us is just a temporary guy here. We need somebody. Do you know of anybody? He goes, man, I just got off the Pam Tillis gig with this guy. And, Lee's got a ton of those ballads. And he's like, this guy can play a ballad like nobody's business. You ought to call him. And so Eric called me. And at the time I was touring with a new Sony artist named Tammy Cochran, and another powerhouse vocalist. Had a big hit with a song called Angels in Waiting. I don't know if you remember that, Kenneth, or not. That was right around 2000, 2001. Great song. So we were all waiting for Tammy, her career to really take off, and we were going to just ride that wave with her. And so Eric called me and said, hey, I'm with Lee Greenwood. We need a keyboard player. Would you want to do the dates? And I said, I appreciate it, but I'm going to pass on this. I'm with this other artist and really expecting big things. And he goes, well, here's the deal. We have about a show a month on the books. Lee was in a transition period at this time. He was leaving his theater in East Tennessee and trying to get back out on the road, doing road dates. And so he was just transitioning there, and there wasn't a lot of work for him. So he said, we've got about a show a month. Some months have none, some have two, but it averages out to about one a month. So if you can do those, great. If you can't, send somebody in your place and he'll fill in for you. But I said, well, okay, I'll take that deal. That's fine. Fully expecting, honestly, not really to play many of Lee's shows, though I love his music. My goodness, those heart-wrenching ballads, man, turns me inside out, and Going, Going, Gone, and geez, you just so many to name. But and so if this was July 2001, and I said, the only caveat I have to this, I'll do it, but my first kid's about to be born, and that was going to be around the beginning of August. I said, whoever's out there with you now, if you can just hold on to him a little bit longer, as soon as that kiddo's here, I'll go, but I'm not going to miss it. He said, no problem. So I think there were no shows in August for Lee at the time. There were a few for Tammy, so I was out a little bit. My daughter was born on August 2nd, which was tremendous. And first show...
Yesterday. Yeah, yesterday was her birthday.
Yeah, yesterday was her birthday, yes. So we had two shows with Lee that I was going to be able to do, which were September 13th and September 14th, 2001. And the 13th was the State Fair in Knoxville, Tennessee State Fair. And the 14th was a casino in Michigan, somewhere in Michigan. And I'm sitting at the house on 2 days before our first show. 9/11 unfolds in front of all of our eyes. And one show a month turned into being gone almost nonstop for a year and a half. After those attacks, just his calendar, we all remember, the song was such a healing thing, and I got to witness it firsthand to audiences. And that just took us, like I said, about a year and a half. We just almost didn't stop. So crazy that I almost said no to that. But
Wow.
we experienced some really amazing things on shows on the road during that time. We did a lot of stuff. We did the groundbreaking ceremony for the Pennsylvania, where that flight went down. We broke ground there for the memorial with lots of family members of the heroes that were on that flight that day. We're in attendance there. Man, just when I talked to you on the phone, I told you this one about a lady that came to one of our shows, and she had a bouquet, with a picture in it of her son who worked in the trade towers, and she still didn't know, did he make it? Where is he? Because they bust these people to all kinds of different hospitals and stuff. So they were still sort of trying to figure out where he is. And so she laid, those flowers with his picture at the front of the stage. Things that just, you're trying to sing backing vocals to God Bless the USA, and something like that happens and your heart's up in your throat, and can't hardly make it.
Man, that's one example, Doug, but what's some other stuff you've done that's just post 9/11 stuff? I can remember then Lee Greenwood, like, I guess I know I'm digressing some, but Lee Greenwood in the 80s was a major act, right? Like just
Huge.
Blowing up the scenes. My
Huge,
mother wore me and my brothers out with Lee Greenwood in the 80s. I heard his stuff all day long on her boombox, and she literally wore us out. And I know that in the 90s, you didn't really hear about him that much, but I can remember post 9/11 mainly because I was in Army Reserve when that happened. But I remember seeing Lee Greenwood on everything, every TV show, some kind of commemorative event or memorial or anything, So I would just imagine me being an outsider that it must have just really blew it up. But explain it more. I just can't imagine what that's like.
No, like you, I think we're pretty close in age, Kenneth, and most 4th of July fireworks displays had God Bless the USA as part of it, if not the finale. So all through my childhood as well. And, my folks, we were in Paducah, Kentucky, but we could get a Nashville radio station at our house in Paducah. And remember the Jerry House show, we'd get all the way from Nashville. And so there was country music blaring through the house. And I wasn't paying attention to it so much that when I got to Nashville and started doing the shows and stuff, I'm like, how do I know these songs like I do? Like, it just really sort of blew me away. It was like osmosis. So yeah, and Lee Greenwood was one of those voices that was blaring, through the house. And since getting that job, that tour, I was with him a few years, and then our band leader, Eric, left, and he asked me to take over those duties. And I've been his band leader, musical director since then. And, I say job like it's a job. My gosh, it's so not. It's working with a bunch of friends out there doing what we love. But some of the things that we've experienced post 9/11 are just, USO shows. You're doing a show in front of a bunch of people out there, and you get a kid holding up a big poster board with pictures of his dad and, please come home. We miss you. And tears me up now, those were amazing. In 2006, we were lucky enough to circle the globe to do a DOD tour. And it was Lee Greenwood, Restless Heart, huge fan of those guys, couple of comedians, about a half a dozen NFL cheerleaders. And we had 2 planes that were just for us. We had a KC-10, I believe, which is like a DC-10. It's just not luxurious inside like a commercial airliner. And then we had one of the big cargo planes, or C-130, I believe, cargo plane. And they were dedicated to us, our tour, because we had a lot of service people with us as well. And the first stop was at Germany, Ramstein at the hospital. And we were only there to really have lunch and let the celebrities go to the hospital and meet with soldiers that were there. And I believe, don't quote me on this, believe at some point I heard that if a soldier can make it to that hospital, he or she has like an 80% chance of making it home. And so we knew what an important stop that was. And I remember Lee coming back to the bus. They had us in a bus for transportation on the ground, and couldn't even talk about it. He was so emotional at seeing what he would say is, soldiers with no limbs thanking me, And so for anyone that might doubt his heart, and in that whole process of writing and releasing that song and keeping it out there and keep performing it, buddy, he bleeds red, white, and blue. I can tell you that all day long. And so we started there, and we went to. Go ahead, please.
No, but Doug, I just want. There's a story that you told me that it just really blew me away. And I'm gonna let you. I'm just gonna give you the intro, and I want you to take it. But you were telling me, number one, he's a 100% writer of that song.
Oh yeah, okay. I know you're going with that.
Yeah.
This was
tell us, because that's so fascinating.
You're right. So Lee had a theater in East Tennessee, and he came from Las Vegas. He spent 20 years of his adult life in Las Vegas. And so when he got the opportunity to open a theater in East Tennessee, he thought Vegas style show. Talking James Bond medleys, Broadway hits, all this, dancers, the whole thing, right? And so he puts together this big Lee Greenwood spectacle at the theater, an extravaganza. It was wonderful. I've seen video clips. And it opened to people coming in, sitting down with their popcorn, and they want to hear Dixie Road, God Bless the USA, or as they would sometimes call it, Proud to Be an American, and IOU. And he said the first time he got out there doing one of those big James Bond medleys, he looked out there and they were out. It's like a bunch of mules staring at a brand new gate. He said they didn't get it. They didn't want it. It let the wind out of his sails, though he loved it. And so he was out there for a few years, but he was just getting back out on the road. He had left that theater and ended his deal with them and was getting back out on the road, and there wasn't much work, which is like when I was called to work, there wasn't much work. So he was he's always a mover and a shaker. He's always thinking. And yes, he is the 100% sole writer of God Bless the USA. He sat in the back of his tour bus and wrote that song. He had a little keyboard and a recording thing, a little production setup in the back of his bus. And he owns 100% writer, and he's split publishing 50-50 with MCA Records. So for your viewers, listeners that may not know exactly what that is, when a song is written, it has to be published. And so the owners of that song are the writers and the publishers. And in this case, the writer was just Lee, and then MCA has the other half of his publishing. And so he had gone into MCA Records about a year, maybe a year and a half before 9/11, offered them to sell it, his stake in it, his 100% writer, 50% publisher, and they just weren't interested. And he left, and I'm so glad they were not interested. I'm sure he is too. But yeah, then
oh my God,
that happened, and all of this. He was number one again. That Thanksgiving, the album American Patriot that most people would buy if they wanted to buy CD. If they wanted to buy a Lee Greenwood CD, American Patriot had all these, patriotic songs on it, and God Bless the USA was on there. So that's the one most of them would buy. And between 9/11 and Thanksgiving, that album went gold. And between Thanksgiving and Christmas, it went platinum. And that's that one right there. Yeah.
Wow.
So we all got gold record. Yes. I didn't get a platinum one. I was really looking for a platinum one. That would have been fun.
Yeah. Man, and I was actually, of course, being a country music fan, Lee Greenwood's song was the big one. Darryl Worley had a song, Toby Keith had a song, and Alan Jackson had a song. The World Stopped Turning. They all wrote about 9/11.
Yeah.
But Lee Greenwood's song became the anthem, man. I mean, it was just the anthem. From then on, I think it still is. I think that's safe to say.
We're talking on the phone. every songwriter wants to write a song that outlives them, and he certainly has
Yes.
done that. It will be, I mean, we talk a lot about 9/11, but what we don't ever want to forget is 9/12, at how many American flags were flying on the homes of people in this country, and how everyone came together. And, that's as much a product of that as anything else. But yeah, no, he, during the Gulf War, obviously he and President Reagan had a tremendous relationship. Both President Bush's, the current administration as well. Obviously, that he's all over the place with appearances with the president, and it seems to, we call it sometimes, it's like a cat. It's got 9 lives. It just lands on its feet again, and here it is, ready to bring people together and remind us how great our nation is.
Something else, but it's he's deserving of all that fame and fortune. I really believe that, and well, here's something it's hard for me to kind of fathom being an outsider, and I think for most people, Doug, but how in the world post 9/11 do you all go out show after show after show, especially in the early days of post 9/11? How do you emotionally deal with that, man? I mean, to me, it'd be like going to 20 funerals back to back. I don't know how one prepares himself. You, Lee Greenwood, I mean, how it has to be an emotional toll on y'all.
Yeah, mostly him for sure. But no, Lee was stuck on the West Coast on the morning of 9/11, and we had these shows coming up. The 13th show in Knoxville was canceled. It didn't happen. The state fair canceled, but we had that show on the 14th at a casino in Michigan. And Lee paid, I don't remember how much it was. It was a lot of money to get a private plane to take him from California to Michigan to meet us on the bus so he could do the show, because he felt like it was that important to be there, to sing the song, to show everybody that you can't keep us down. It's important to get that message out of there. That's how much he believes in the song and what it does for people. But no, I mean, every night he would prepare for that. And we would too, and I actually, it's funny you bring that up, Kenneth, specifically, because at that point, we were going out, we were staying out. I mean, we just hardly weren't coming in. I was making more money than I ever had in my life up to that point. And I started grappling with that. This horrible thing happened, and now I'm making more money than I've ever made. I had trouble with that. And I actually had a friend at the time. I haven't talked to him in years. He owned a Christian music record label in Nashville. His name is Brian Winicky. I was on the phone with Brian, and he was asking me about the tour and things like that. And I told him this, and he said, "Doug, what do you use that money for?" I was like, "Well, my bills." And he's like, "Yeah, you put food on your table, you buy your daughter clothes, and you." "Yeah, I do all that." "That's right, you do. You're taking care of your family. They can't win. They can't win. And so, yeah, you're taking that money and you're making that money, but you're using it for your family. Don't let them win. They can't win this." And it just really helped me tremendously with that.
Yeah. Never thought about that. Yeah. I mean, you guys didn't set out to profit off tragedy. That was never
No.
Lee Greenwood's goal, or nor was it yours or anybody else. But to me, it was just, you guys were actually, you were a road show of doctors. I mean, you were healing people with that music.
It really was, and we saw it every night. I mean, gosh, just so many emotional venues and crowds, Gold Star families that we perform for. We have them back in the dressing area, or the green room area, but back behind stage, and meet with them and stuff. And gosh, every one of them are so special and so memorable.
Are you tired of hearing the same songs over and over? It's time for real Texas country. TurnUpTXCountryMusic.com, streaming free 24/7 from the cowboy capital of the world, Stephenville, Texas. From Texas legends to the hottest red dirt artists, this is the music Nashville wishes it still made. No subscriptions, no monthly fees, just authentic Texas country music anytime, anywhere. At work, in your truck, at the ranch, on the road. And the best part, you can listen anywhere in the world right from your phone, smart speaker, or computer. Stop settling for corporate playlists and hear country music the way it was meant to sound. Listen now at txcountrymusic.com. Texas country lives here. Well, I guess my next question I got to ask you, I know one of these stories, I want you to give me a few examples. I know the Midland, Texas story, but tell me some of the really cool places, some of the coolest places that was just something you'll never ever forget that you got to play because of this. I know one of them, it was kind of a funny story, but what to you is just so dear to your heart of all the just unique places you never dreamed a boy from Paducah, Kentucky would be here doing this?
Oh, for sure, boy. It's crazy, but politics aside, it's never been about that for any of us. But politics aside, playing a show and at the end of your show, walking to the front of the stage and having the president fist bump you after your last song, that's pretty cool. The trip that we made around the world, from we played in Balad, Iraq, which is I think it was about 42 miles from Baghdad, and the base that we played there was the facility. I was told that there's a swimming pool there, and that's where Saddam Hussein executed the swim team when they didn't qualify for the Olympics, was like right there at that pool. So this is the base that I guess we had captured and we were operating out of. And so to play that close in 2006 to the heat was incredible. And I know it's a little different than what you were asking, but I can't skip that one. But all the the bases in Turkey and Iraq and South Korea, the DMZ there. I mean, just be able to see these places, when your artist's biggest hit is God Bless the USA, it doesn't equate into a lot of international travel. There's, like the Bellamy's and country music's, huge in other countries and stuff. But when your guy, when his big closer is all about America, so there hasn't been a lot of international tour travel just to go do a show outside of military type stuff. So playing those bases
makes a lot of sense, man. Like I'm sure, being an ex-military guy, I'll never forget being in Paris, France. They hated us. They hated, and I was in normal civilian clothing. So I never thought about that. Yeah, you probably get invited to Paris or a lot of these
not a whole bunch.
European countries are borderline socialists. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but no,
what's
the
in your
president's
mind,
place.
Doug?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. What's the most impactful person that you've got to play in front of like that and all this stuff that just is like, man, I never thought I'd be here. I know you've already told me one story, but like a place, a location.
Oh gosh, am I forgetting something I already told you? Debate me if I am.
No.
Set me up.
Well, no, like I was just curious. I only know one place that you played in Midland, Texas, but just probably your most memorable venue that you played as a result of all this.
I'll tell the Midland story. I do love telling it. We had a show in Atlanta, Georgia one night, and it had to be in Midland for President Bush the next day, kind of early. And the only way we could make it was to fly privately. And so they had booked us 2 smaller private jets to get from Atlanta to Midland. And let me tell you, by the way, it's the most luxurious thing is to be able to just pull up to the stairs of the plane and get out of the SUV and no TSA, no security, it spoils you so fast. But we get on the plane after our show in Atlanta. The bus takes us right to planes. We get up and some of the guys are on one, some are on other. the crew guys are on one and the band and Lee and the road manager on the other. Well, they put all the gear inside the plane because the plane wasn't big enough to hold all the gear back in the cargo area where the luggage and all that stuff was. So they stuffed a bunch of tour cases in the bathroom, and it covered up the toilet. So we're headed to Midland from Atlanta in the air, and they've got beverages on they've catered the planes for us. And at some point, the crew guys, they all got to go to the bathroom. And I guess rather than take all the gear out of the bathroom, they ended up talking the pilot into landing the plane. And so he found an airstrip somewhere, landed the plane. They all run over to this chain link fence and use the bathroom, up the stairs, back onto the plane. He gets up in the air and he turns around and tells them, he goes, "Fellas, that's the most expensive bathroom break you'll ever take." the amount of fuel it took to get them down and back up. But we made it to Midland, had a great show for the Bushes there. We did a show for Bush Jr., President Bush. It was on a campaign stop, and we were at a baseball field, and he was doing a campaign stump there. And our bass player at the time, he shaved his head, and he was going to actually go back to the hotel. I think he was tired or wasn't feeling well or whatever. And we were going to stay and listen to the president speak. And so he chooses to go what he thought was the path around the baseball field over to the other side and to where the hotel was. And I think he'd walked somewhere where maybe he shouldn't have, or was making some people nervous or whatever. But we were all sitting together. We happened to look over to our left. He's walking that way, and I see red dots on the back of his shaved head. And I'm like, oh God, he's going to get shot. He's going somewhere. But they just had a beat on him, just to make sure. But yeah, it was a funny sight to see, I have to say.
So how many presidents, past and present, have you got to meet as a result of your tour with Lee Greenwood?
For me, it's two. It's the current administration and Bush Jr. Wasn't ever fortunate enough to meet Senior, and I was in high school during Reagan, and so that's the only ones. Of course, we only meet the Republican presidents. There's no White House love, really. Not that it's bad or anything, but it's just less opportunities, fewer opportunities.
I never thought of that. I mean, the song is not political. It's a USA, God Bless America song. Why in the world would any president want you guys playing? That's pretty. It says a lot, right? That speaks volumes.
I think so. Yeah. But I tell you what, we do love doing it.
I don't blame you. Do you still, what now? 25 years has passed almost to the month. One more month to go.
Yeah.
What's the momentum? Obviously, I know the momentum has changed, but what do you see today as far as your all's touring schedule? What's it like now?
Currently, it looks like by the end of this year, Lee will probably have done about a dozen or so shows with the band. Endless appearances, just him. Him and his wife, Kimberly, do a lot of things without the band production. And for those listening or watching that don't really get that, there's so much production that goes into having the band with the sound system and all the instruments and just all the production. It's a completely different world from just having Lee come sing God Bless the USA to a pre-recorded, musical backing track for an event or whatever. So, but this year it's about a dozen. Of course, when I first joined, after 9/11, it was nuts for, a few years, and it sort of settled into about a 40 to 50 show a year, with the band type thing. And it's fluctuated, give or take a dozen, over the years. It's kind of been about that kind of a busy thing. It's never been crazy busy. I know back in the 80s, man, they were running and gunning like nobody's business. I think them, Alabama, and maybe the Gatlin brothers were out there blazing the biggest trails. But about into that. But this year, Lee is 83 years old, and
oh wow,
he's not human in the way that he still gets around, sings. He's not lowered anything from the record. Matter of fact, there's a couple that are higher than he recorded them that we do live. It's just insane.
Wow.
his DNA. But he's in great shape. And I always tell people, when you get out on a gig like this, every gig has things that are great about it, things that are not so great about it. We can all, there's an ongoing funny inside joke. This is, how do you make a musician complain? Get him a gig. Well, this gig it's always been great. And I tell people, if it's a 4:00 lobby call to get to the airport, well, guess who's also there? Lee's also there. If it's crazy, connections and, whatever he's not at the Four Seasons, we're at the Ramada or at the Super 8 or whatever. We're always together. He's not in first class and we're in coach. Occasionally he'll have some miles and he'll get it, but it's nothing like that. So, I always tell anybody that I've ever hired over the years, like, when you come into it, if you ever think like you want to sort of start complaining about something, look right over to your side and the boss is right in the trenches with you.
That's pretty impressive. Doug, at what age did you determine, hey, I know what I want to do for a living and this is it? When did you decide in your young life that you wanted to be a professional musician and this was your full-time job?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's not as serious as one might think, but I started taking piano lessons at about 6 years old. And I remember we had some family at the house. And there was something on the radio, it must have been, and I was like humming a harmony part to it at that age, like 6, 7, 8 years old. And whoever it was there said that's not something that most people would do, especially at that age, could do. You might want to look into getting this kid some lessons and see what's behind that. And so that's when I started taking lessons. But around 7th or 8th grade, maybe 9th, somewhere in that area, I was on the campus of Murray State University. So I went to Reedland High School in Paducah, Kentucky. I was on the campus of Murray State for a day at this thing where all the regional high school choir directors would choose 2, 3, or 4, whatever, from their choir, and we could go to Murray for the day, do this big workshop type thing, learn some songs, do a concert that night. Everybody goes home, right? And so there are kids from all kinds of schools around my school, all the Western Kentucky, all that area that I'd never seen before. And we had a lunch break, and I had come back a little early from lunch, and the big piano, big 9-foot, 10-foot grand, whatever, was in the middle of the room. And I had sat down, was noodling, and I was probably playing some love song that was popular on the radio at the time or whatever, and just glanced up at some point, and all around that piano are girls. Just girls that I have seen in the room that day. Oh, I remember that one's over there. She's cute. I didn't know them, most of them, but girls all around the piano. And I looked up and I thought, oh boy. And that's it. I never looked back. No, I was never going to do anything else. It was girls.
Did you go to college or did you go straight to music?
I went to college for music. I went to Murray State, but I only was there a year. I didn't like it. The whole experience wasn't for me, and the kind of music program I was in wasn't for me. And I'll expound on that just a little bit. I had gotten a scholarship, partial scholarship to Murray State. It was a vocal scholarship. So I'm there and I'm in all these vocal classes. And it's like they're teaching me to sing like opera music, right? I don't want to do that. And so then I started thinking like, what am I going to do with this degree? Well, I could be a choir director at a school. Don't want to do that. I just want to get out on a tour bus and go play in front of millions and billions of people. And so I didn't take it seriously. I left on academic probation, knowing that I wasn't going to look back. And so, yeah, I gave it a year. That was my deal with my folks too. Give it a year. If you don't like it, go out, do whatever you want to do. We're behind you 1,000%. And I had gotten a job not long after I left that second semester and never looked back.
Nice. It's good that your parents supported that, like they wanted you to be happy.
Yeah, very, very appreciative of that for sure. I think there's music in, on my mother's side of the family. My grandfather on my mother's side was very instrumental in the bluegrass scene in Eastern Kentucky, Kingsport, Bristol, Tennessee area. Roy Webb was his name. He's passed now, but he was very, very huge in the bluegrass scene back there, the early radio days and stuff. And I'd love to talk to you more about that too. But Ricky Skaggs has one of his mandolins. And every time I see Ricky, he plays two different mandolins. One belonged to my grandfather and the other one didn't. And so every time I see Ricky at the Opry, he'll say, "Hey, how you doing? How's your mom? How's her sisters? Everybody good?" And I'll point at the mandolin. He's like, "Yep, it's the other one." So yeah. So music is there. My mother completely understood that, which I'm sure helped a lot for letting me go out and get to it.
Man, that's crazy. So I know I dabbled didn't dabble. I was pretty into vintage banjos for a long time when I was playing. I actually had a 1934 Gibson Granada, which is the holy grail of banjos, all authentic, legit, real that I sold.
Oh, wow.
And if I owned it now, I could probably retire. But if Ricky's got that mandolin, it's more than likely a Lloyd Loar Gibson. Lloyd Loar was a luthier at Gibson, and he made the F-style mandolins, and anything made during his era is worth, back 30 years ago, they were $30,000 used. Now they're probably $150,000. I don't even know what they're worth, but I bet you that's what it is.
It most likely is. It's funny how that connection was made too. My mother's sister, my aunt, was at a Ricky Skaggs concert several years ago in Knoxville, I think. And he mentioned it from the stage. Hey, this mandolin belonged to an East Tennessee, Southwest Virginia bluegrass guy named Roy Webb. I don't know him, but I don't know if he's still alive. And my aunt's out there just going nuts, like, hey, and so she got a hold of Ricky's management the following week, and they connected the dots. And he actually drove out and spent a day interviewing my grandfather with a video camera to collect all that information so he could keep it. He was writing a book on the history of bluegrass music, and my grandfather was a historian to the nth degree. So he spent all day out there, and my mother and her three sisters, who are just crazy when they get together, they spent all day cooking for him, and so they really had a day. And then not long after that, my grandfather was to be inducted into the Appalachian Bluegrass Hall of Fame, and the ceremony was out in Bristol at the Paramount in Bristol, Tennessee. I think it's the Paramount.
Well, there's a Paramount in Knoxville. Bristol has one. Yeah, but that is so crazy.
And Ricky drove out to
that. Webb's a very Appalachian name.
Yeah. Yes. Mr. Skaggs made it a point to go out and hand him that award on stage.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't Loretta Lynn maiden name Webb?
Oh, I don't know that. I'm
almost thinking her. I might be wrong. I think it is. Webb's Witt's a very Appalachian name, and so is Webb. You all come out of Virginia and into Kentucky, but that's so interesting, man. I didn't know that about you. That's pretty crazy. There was a documentary that was released in the 90s called High Lonesome Sound.
Okay.
I think that's what it was called. It was a documentary about the history of bluegrass. I wonder if he's mentioning that now that I'm thinking about it. But
it's quite probable.
That's cool. That's so neat.
A big player in it. And I tell you what, he was the Hill people, that generation, you don't get hugs and head scratches and all that stuff. I called him by his first name my whole life. It wasn't grandpa, or it wasn't, it was just a very formal kind of thing, But he told my mother, I was able to get him to come to the Opry and watch me perform on the Grand Ole Opry. And he told her there that day, it's so great to see my dreams fulfilled through him. And I think that was the biggest compliment that he could probably muster.
Yes. Yeah. No, man, that I can relate to that. I come from a family of music too, and that's it means a lot.
Yeah, for
My
sure.
dad was a musician. He's so proud to see us play, and no,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. And unfortunately, I have 4 children, and only one of them really plays seriously. My daughter sings in church, and I have a son that plays guitar pretty serious, but none of them are in it like we were.
What's funny, Kenneth, because, so I parallel that. I have 4 children of my own, and I always had a keyboard and a guitar in the house, accessible to them at any time. And they would dabble mostly on piano because I think I did. And that was just, that's what they would go to. But, they would have pretty good ears. My youngest daughter, she would pick things out. And I'd mess, I'd sing that note, and I'd do another note, sing it. Just testing. None of them ever showed. All 4 of them never showed anything either. And, it's not like I was sitting here wanting them to, because it's not an easy business to be in. So if they had it and they couldn't, you couldn't stop them, then I'm 100% for them and behind them. I'm going to do what I can, but I'm just not going to make it up and go, I think you should go into music, But now my 2 boys, different story. I got twin boys who are 16, and one of them in particular, just out of nowhere, Kenneth, just started with music. For instance, like I'm talking, he'd send me like Mo Bandy links, and like his first vinyl that he got was the greatest hits of Conway Twitty. Like, I mean, he's 16, but I'm telling you, he's an old man inside, man. He's an old soul. And he's taking guitar lessons, and he seems to have that drive. I don't know. I'm still waiting, but finally, it looks like somebody might have at least the interest that we can converse about music. And I'm telling you, he knows more than I do about who did this and what, who recorded that song and the story behind the song. And God, if we'd had social media on our phones when we were learning music as a kid, huh?
Yes. Yeah. No, man, it is so cool. Like all my kids have the ability and have done it. They just never followed through with it, except for my youngest son, who's at the University of Kentucky now.
Nice.
But yeah, and my youngest daughter sings in church regularly, but she doesn't want to play, never want to play an instrument. And their mother's family's all musical too. But you know how it is, Doug. You can't make them, right? And you didn't make yours. It's either they like it or they don't.
It's either you can't make them or you can't stop them. It's one of the two to me. It's
true.
I mean, I would go to bed at night thinking about something that was stumping me. And apparently I thought about it all night long, because my mother would tell me I'd get up the first thing in the morning and go in and play it. It's like, oh, that's what it was. So apparently it was just brewing. And so you can't turn it off and you can't stop it if it's there like that.
Now, what all are you doing these days? What's Doug Carter's life in 2026? What are you doing today? What's your normal routine?
A lot of great stuff. First of all, can't skip this out. Just did this last week. I got married. I've been divorced for several years, but I got married, and we had a wonderful time out in Vegas, just the 2 of us. So we've been planning for that. But career-wise, music-wise, I'm still touring with Lee Greenwood. I'm still his musical director, band leader. We've got a great show coming up in Ocean City, New Jersey, with an orchestra in a couple of weeks. So looking forward to that. Love orchestra dates. I also have an 80s tribute band. I'll plug that for just a second, called Mixtape. That's Mixtape 80s Tribute Band. We are mixtape80sband.com. We are a tribute to the 80s pop and rock stuff that you saw on MTV. My business partner tells people we do everything from Motley Crue to Cutting Crew. And we get dressed up, but I don't look like anything like this on stage. We wear all the authentic period clothes, and my hair might be a little bit longer on stage than it is here, maybe just a little bit. We've got full production behind us. All the original MTV videos run behind us. It's a whole thing, and we do a lot of corporate work, private work. We've done one of the most fun corporate things we did was a couple of years ago down in Orlando for Cracker Barrel corporate. They had about 1,500 leaders from Cracker Barrel all over the country. And boy, they showed up and ready to party. But that was a lot of fun. So we do a lot of that. we also have a second band, the same cast of characters on stage, just outfitted a little differently. It's a tribute to 80s and 90s country called Music City. That's just getting launched off the ground this year. And so I do recording sessions here in town. I do recording sessions here. The home studio has made it to where guys like me can just get files emailed to me, and they say, hey, put a piano on it, put strings, put a B3 organ, and I'll do all that and send it back. And if they like it, they keep it. If not, I'll do a revision, that kind of thing. So a lot of session work. And my kids are pretty much grown. My boys are be 17 in October. So almost out of all that. And that's pretty much it. I've done some shows with Joey Belladonna of Anthrax, lead singer of Anthrax. He wanted to put a show of Journey songs together. So he said, can you put a band together? You got to get guys that love Journey. I was like, who doesn't love Journey? So we've done a lot of those. Did a few shows with a band called The Players. These guys are formerly with Chicago. Jeff Coffey and Keith Howland. Keith was guitar player for Chicago for 27 years. Jeff was there, I think, 11, lead singer. And so really honored to do those. But I tell you, something else that I can't leave out, and it's random, it's not scheduled or anything like that, is when I get a call to fill in for a keyboard player buddy. And we all joke because we never see each other because we're all on gigs doing the same thing, so we can never be in the same place. But when you get a call that says, hey, I got to take this, this week out or whatever, I got to do something, can you come fill in? When I'm able to do that, it's one of the most fun things I've ever gotten to do, I'll ever get to do, to fill in with Larry Gatlin and the Gatlin brothers, those knuckleheads, the Oak Ridge boys, the Bellamy brothers, to be able to, and others, but to be able to get on stage, Little River Band, that was phenomenal. Reminiscing, I mean, gosh, what a great thing. But to get on stage with those artists, those voices singing those hit songs, what a treat. That's just like an icing on the cake type thing.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I've got to come and see Mixtape. That's right. I'm a huge country and bluegrass guy, but, man, I grew up in the 80s. I've seen a lot of rock concerts back in the day.
There it had a way.
Yeah.
I'll be the guy with longer hair.
Now that we know each other, we've got... Yeah, hey, man, I might be guilty of having a mullet in the 80s in high school annual if you look in Lacey County High School's annual. But, man, now that I've got your phone number, and I'm in Nashville all the time, my kids are still in Kentucky and my brothers are in Nashville, and I'm there all the time. I've got to come out and check you out, man, because my wife and I, we try to travel back there quite often. And nice. I'm going to look you up. I'm serious. I will come see you all play.
Oh, we'd love to have you. It's a heck of a
I'll have to check out your schedule. Well, Doug,
I was just going to say we're very fast.
I knew you and I would have.
Oh yeah. We're very fast paced. When you come to the show, what I was going to say is when we get the dance floor packed, we don't let them leave. I mean, it's one after another. So yeah, you'll have a great time, both of you and your wife.
Well, I love that. I knew that you and I would have no trouble talking. It's so funny because both Kentuckians, we didn't know each other. We just had mutual friends, but that's it, and we hit the ground running today. May have to get you back on sometime, man. It's been a pleasure.
Anytime, man. It's so much fun. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Well, Doug, again, before we take off and sign off, tell everybody how they can find Doug Carter's music, his studio, and all those things.
Absolutely. You can find me at dougcartermusic.com and mixtape80sband.com. And there's messages, ways to message me through there. And would love to hear from you.
All right. Doug, man, it's been an honor and a pleasure having you on here. What a great content today for me. I love doing this, man, because I learn so much. You get to hear good stories, and it's worth it all.
Oh, I'm sure being in your seat is fantastic. Have a great time. I appreciate you having me.
It is. I love it, man. I love doing this. Doug, thank you so much. We'll stay in touch.
Awesome. Thank you so much.